Welcome to the Hope for Prisoners Tuesday Night Huddle Up. I am Jon Ponder, founder and CEO of Hope for Prisoners, and I am so glad that you have joined us here tonight. We have a very exciting guest speaker here tonight who's really going to tell you what leadership is all about. I want to give a big shout out to our friends. First of all, right here in this room, give yourselves a big, gigantic round of applause. Oh, you're supposed to be, woo! That's what I'm talking about. Then we want to say hello to all our friends out there out of the Department of Corrections, inside Casa Grande, and the ladies out at Gene Camp. Can we say, give a big, gigantic round of applause? And then want to give a big shout out to our family and friends in the Clark County Detention Center, the City of Las Vegas Detention Center, and then our family and friends are watching from around the world on the Hope for Prisoners Facebook Live page. We are so glad that you joined us tonight. Can we give them another big, gigantic round of applause? So listen, we're going to break it up in a different fashion today because there's a lot of stuff that we need to do. So we're just going to bring her up and we'll go on the back end of it. But please make sure that you jot down some notes of the nuggets she's going to drop here in this room. So we're going to have a few minutes for some Q&A, and I'm sure you guys are not going to be disappointed. But before we do, let's go ahead and go before the Lord in prayer. Father, we just come before you right now in the name of Jesus, God. We thank you for this magnificent day that you have made. We are going to rejoice and be glad in it. Father, we want to lift up our speaker to you tonight, God, my dear friend, Assistant Sheriff Sasha, Larkin. God, we thank you for who she is in the community. We thank you for what she's been to Hope for Prisoners. And we thank you for what it is that she is going to bring, not only in this home, but inside the correctional facilities and around the world. We love you, we worship you, and we pray this prayer in the matchless name of your Son, Jesus Christ. In his name, we say amen. All right. So listen, without any further ado, I'm not going to read a bio because everything is wrong. Because it's really for this lady has accomplished. You guys are pleased to be my dear friend, Assistant Sheriff Sasha Larkin. Sasha, welcome to the Huddle Up.
Courage. You make that word to Ireland, you can say no. Oh, you get it. No. We can have a healthy rivalry, right? Police and fire. But what about police? Would you relate the word courage to the profession of policing? Traditionally, right? Not 100%, but traditionally. I was thinking tonight about that word for a couple of reasons. One, we had a really great story of a young police officer today who did something very courageous, and I'll share with you later. Then I was thinking about the fact that human beings more often than not have more in common than we do different. And I was thinking that courage is really what exemplifies Jon Ponder. And that as I walked into this building tonight, the courage it took for him to take a chance to ask somebody for money to build this place. The courage it took for him to be a mainstream community entity. Because how many people really understand what happens inside this building? How many people really understand the magic that goes on behind these closed doors? I would argue very few of mainstream community. And then I was thinking about the courage it took him to even dream up this program, right? He probably had this vision and thought about it and then went to tell someone and they kind of went, okay. And then he probably told another person and they probably went, yeah, that's a good idea, man. And they did nothing to help him. And I'm just guessing, John, it went something like this. He probably told a dozen people that all went something to the effect of, great idea, sounds good, good luck, but none of them wanted to back him, right? They certainly were going to give him money. They certainly didn't want to attach their name to it because what if he failed? What if he was wrong? What if nobody showed up? What if it didn't work? But John had this little thing called courage, which allowed him to see past the mainstream ideals of how we should do things in life. And you see, when I think about the word courage, I think about people in their lives that push back, that don't take no for an answer. I think about people that are told, you should look this way. You should act like this. And the courage it takes to be different. You see, in policing, we talk about the fact that running towards gunfire, being a fireman, running into a burning building, honestly, that's the easy part. It is. It is the easy part. But let me tell you where the courage, what we try to tell our young officers, let me tell you where the courage comes in. What do you think would have happened with Derek Chauvin and George Floyd if the police officer standing next to Derek Chauvin would have had the what? Courage to go, yo, man, take your knee off his neck. But he didn't, did he? None of them did. They lacked the courage to say something uncomfortable. Maybe because they were the junior police officer on scene. Maybe because Derek Chauvin was senior, he'd been around a long time, and he was like the cool guy, right? Maybe because they were afraid they'd look stupid or they'd be judged. They didn't have the courage to push back and do the right thing. Because, you see, doing the right thing sometimes does take courage. Pushing back against what we're told we're supposed to do or look like does take courage. And I think about that often because, see, in policing, if we don't have the courage to be accountable when we screw up, we lose public trust that fast. If we don't have the courage to hold ourselves and others accountable, we lose all of that trust in a heartbeat, in a minute. I mean, policing is still not recovered from Derek Chauvin. God bless you. We still haven't recovered. The community still in the back of their mind goes, are you one of those knee droppers? Right? They think that. You see, the broad brushstroke happens to all of us. Let me give you a good example. What I mean by that and why courage is so important to push back against that. Because one of you in this audience might relate to one of these stories. In 2015, the Pulse nightclub shooting. Do you guys remember hearing about that? I know some of you are probably a little young. But in 2015, Omar Fatin goes into the Pulse nightclub in Florida. You see, he was a practicing Muslim. He goes into this nightclub, but it wasn't any nightclub. Does anybody remember what kind of nightclub it was? That's right. It's an LGBTQ nightclub. And he goes in there and he commits the second largest, the largest at the time, mass shooting in our country. 49 people are killed. The police show up, they respond, they're outside putting together a tactical response. They're outside for X number of minutes, which seemed at the time like an eternity, until they finally go in. But during this time, 49 people are shot and killed. Okay? So I'll never forget the next morning I turn on the news and I'm watching the news reports. And the news, in one beautiful broad brushstroke, says something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing for you, another Muslim terrorist goes into some LGBTQ nightclub. Early reports are he'd been in there before, but that he didn't like the gays. And so he decides to kill them. And the police, these cowardly police, show up and do nothing for X amount of minutes. Cowards. So in one news report, 3 different groups of people are all painted. Muslims, right? Another Muslim terrorist. Like, those are the only 2 words we can associate together. Right? LGBTQ. Must be their fault. They probably taunted him. They probably did something to make him do this, right? I mean, that's what they were getting at. And the cowardly cops. So now all cops in this matter that show up were all cowards. And I remember thinking, that was impressive. That they could do that in one news report. That was impressive. And look, I know a lot of you in your seats are like, man, we've been feeling this for years. I get that. So I called my team that day and I said, we're going to go to work. And it was a Sunday. It was a Sunday in July. And they're like, hey, boss, we don't work on Sundays. I'm like, you do today? Get dressed. I'll see you at the office. So we all showed up in uniform. And I said, hey, I want you guys to get a list of every LGBTQ bar, nightclub, and restaurant in Las Vegas. Now I put a couple teams on that. And I said, you guys, we already have the list of all the mosques. I want you to get that assembled. And we're going to walk into these religious establishments and these businesses, and we're going to do two things. Number one, we're going to walk in and we're going to apologize, especially the LGBT community, for not showing up sooner. Now, did we have anything against their community? No, of course not. But had we done any proactive work to develop relationships there? Nope. Why? No good reason. We just hadn't done it. Okay? So we're going to walk in and apologize for not showing up sooner. And we're going to apologize to them that they were painted with that broad brushstroke. And we're going to explain to them, on this day, we are the same. And we did the same thing in the mosques. We said, today we are the same. It is the great equalizer. We all feel judgment. We all feel this judgment. And it doesn't really feel very good. I got to admit, when Derek Chauvin happened, man, my heart was freaking broken. Because that's not what we represent in our profession. That's not what we believe. But yet, it's what was represented. So when we went to these locations, one location at a time, there was hugging, there was crying, there was embracing, and not of people that looked different or had different sexual orientations or different religions, but of people that shared the human spirit. You see, in that moment, we were more alike than we were different, even though you couldn't have picked 3 more different subcategories: Muslims, LGBTQ, and cops. But we stood there and cried and embraced together, because I can't imagine what it was like after 9/11 to walk in the shoes as a practicing Muslim. And God forbid you wore a headdress. And they're not unique. That's not unique to them, right? People all across the world through history have gone through this. But the courage it takes to still get up and put your Muslim headdress on, your hijab on, and go into public, that's courage. When the media says they're terrorists. Right? The courage it takes to be gay openly and dress different and go into public, that's courage. And the courage it took for us to put on our uniform after George Floyd and go, we don't stand for that. Not only do we not stand for it, let me show you the reforms we're going to put our organization through to make sure that never, ever happens on our police department. And not just once, but continually, training, retraining, talking about it, discussing it to where these guys, it's second nature for them. So they wouldn't dream of it. From the youngest cop that we just hire on until the guy that's about to retire. Because you see, that's courage in its truest form. And what you're doing by being a part of this program and breaking the norms, that's courage. And I offer you that every day we get to reinvent how we show up courageously in life. Because sometimes it's taking a job that scares the bejesus out of us. What you will do when you learn a new trade is scary. You won't be innately perfect at it. You won't just show up and know how to fix a motorcycle or drive a semi-truck. You'll think, oh, I got this, I can do this. But you're going to make a mistake. I tell young cops all the time, or young supervisors when they come to work for me, I tell them, I don't trust you yet. And honestly, you don't trust me yet. And that's okay. It's okay. Because trust is earned. It is earned. And I'll tell you when it's earned. It's earned when I screw something up or you screw something up, but we work through it together. We figure it out together. That's trust. And when we are accountable for our actions in that moment of screwing something up. There's nothing I hate worse than when somebody screws something up and I'm waiting for them to come to me and say, I totally screwed that up. And I'd be like, dude, I know, but let's figure it out. Let's do this next time. And then we would have moved on. But when they show up and go, oh, no, nothing went wrong. You're like, oh, man, you had such a golden opportunity to be courageous and for us to build trust. But in that moment, we lost the opportunity to do both. And so I submit to you tonight that being courageous is something you get to relearn every day and try again every day, because some days you may screw it up, and that's okay. I promise you, I've screwed it up more times than I've probably gotten it right. Because every day, our day is different, just as yours is, right? We show up and we have no idea who's going to call 911 or why. No idea. And so we show up and we try to make the very best decisions we can with the training and experience that we have. And sometimes we're on point. We get it all right. Everybody goes home. We're like, okay, good job. But not every day is that great. Not every day is that great. And we play the coulda, woulda, shoulda game all the time. We call that debriefing, right? We call it, hot washing an incident, where we have to take the painful feedback of things we should have known, we should have done different. But in the moment, we made a different decision. Can anybody relate to being in a moment and making a decision they wish they wouldn't have? Me too. Me too. It's human nature, right? But the courage comes from being like, you know what? That decision, that moment doesn't define me. It doesn't. Who I was yesterday is not who I am today. Because hopefully I've learned from my mistakes I made yesterday. I tell my children all the time, I have 4 of them. Luckily, they can all feed themselves and wipe their own backside, so that's a win. And I will tell you that I tell them all the time, I don't need you to be perfect. You don't have to be the fastest, the strongest, the smartest, none of that. But you have to be honest. You got to tell me the truth. When you screw it up, what gets you in trouble is not that you screwed it up, but that you lied to me about it, right? And they're learning that lesson. I have twins, and I have one that comes to me all the time and is like, Mom, this is what I did. And I'm like, all right, cool. 20 push-ups, knock it out. Let's move on. And I got one that will lie until her teeth fall out of her head. I mean, she works so hard. And I'm like, dude, I'm a cop, right? Like, I can tell you were lying the second you walked in. I mean, right, not the fact that they just don't get it, but it's about teaching those lessons, right? We have to continually keep relearning them. But it takes courage to tell the truth because it sucks sometimes. Because the human spirit, like, we don't want to be judged. It doesn't feel good. It just doesn't. But on the other end of that is a great reward of freedom. Right? You've all heard it. You've all heard the whole truth will set you free metaphor. But it does. Because on the other end of it, you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. When my kid finishes her 20 push-ups, she gets up, she shakes it off, and we're like, are we good? You shouldn't do that. Yeah, okay, good. We move on. Now, everything in life is not as easy as 20 push-ups. But if we start training ourselves and our children and those that we love, the value of honesty and accountability early on, it's a huge win. And the other thing is the value of sharing our mistakes, learning from our mistakes. And some of my mistakes are really funny, and some of them are really embarrassing, and some of them are just downright pathetic. But I share them every chance I get because I feel like my children, the folks that work for me, anybody that will listen, I hope that they don't step in the same holes that I did. I hope that you'll learn from the dumb things that I did or tried, and they didn't work. And maybe they'll work for you, but as statistics go, they probably won't. Courage is a really important attribute, and I wanted to talk about it tonight, one, because Jon inspires me, and when I pulled up into this building, I was blown away. We've been Metro's been a part of Hope for Prisoners for over a decade now, right, Jon? And when I got to be in the inaugural class when Jon was down on East Flamingo, and I couldn't believe that we were able to come together in a space where we did see each other as more alike than different. And I hope that you get what I mean by that. Because yes, our skin color can be different. Yes, we come from different backgrounds. But we don't really know each other's stories. Right? We can talk about it. Like, I can give you my bio. I can tell you all this grandeur stuff. But you don't really know the soul, right? The suffering that has happened inside my soul. And I don't know yours. But I think it's that suffering that creates the great human spirit and draws us together. I really do. So let me tell you about a really interesting thing we do on the police department. It's called Adopt a Cop. And the reason we started doing it was when we were doing mass hiring. We found out that a lot of our folks were raised in homogenous-like environments, and they hadn't been exposed to other cultures or other religions or other whatever ways of thinking. And we're like, man, wouldn't it be cool if they could see people different from them? And that if people different from them who don't normally like the cops or aren't comfortable with the cops or anything like that could meet the person and like the person removing the uniform. So let me tell you how it works. I'll give you a good example. So we took 2 young cops that had never really been around an LGBTQ population, and we put them at the center downtown for 3 days. The first 2 days, they went in plain clothes, like jeans and t-shirts, and they worked as volunteers. They hung out, they made friends, they got to know people, and it was great. They were like, man, we met all these people, we learned these things. On the 3rd day, we sent them in uniform. And people were like, shocking. But you couldn't deny the fact that yesterday you were friends and you were breaking bread together. Couldn't deny it. You guys got along. And it was such a great lesson in human connection on both sides. I'll give you another one. We have this wonderful, wonderful older lady, African-American lady. She lives on the west side in West Las Vegas and lived in the same house for 60 years, right? Lives alone. And we had these 2 officers, both of them white. They went and stayed 3 days with her. And I can't remember the premise that we told her they were going to stay with her. I think they were like, it was youth. It was like youth volunteers for their church because they both looked like they were 12. They could barely grow a chin hair. And so they were plain clothes. And what they did, this was the magic of it. They lived inside her house with her, not overnight, but for their 10 hours. And they got to see the world from her perspective, right? From the inside looking out. If she had to go to a doctor's appointment, she had to ride the bus. They rode the bus with her. They saw the struggle that this woman went through every day just to accomplish life. And on the 3rd day, they wore a uniform. And they all cried because they had really fallen in love with this human being, right? Not romantically, but on a humanistic level. Because they saw with such pride and dignity how every day this woman conducted herself. Her house was immaculate, right? It wasn't much bigger than 800 square feet, but it was immaculate. It was clean. You could eat off the floor. She went to her doctor's appointments on that bus, and she rode that bus with pride. She knew all the youngsters in the neighborhood, and she would go out there like a mama bear and, give them a what for and handle business. But she knew. But it was such a great opportunity for them to see the world from her perspective. Because how rare is it that we get to do that? When is the last time we walked a mile in somebody else's shoes and got to feel the world from their shoes? Because it's very different. I didn't grow up a black man or a black woman or Asian or anything else. I grew up a Hispanic female in Albuquerque. So I see the world through that perspective. And that colors my vision of how I see things. So I never sit in front of a group of people and say, I understand what it's like to live life as a black man, because I don't. But what I do understand is that we've both lived through some sort of judgment in our life, probably some sort of discrimination in our life. Listen, let me just lay this for you. Can you imagine in the late 90s, I show up to the police department, right? I should have had pigtails in my hair because it was just about as bad. 23 years old, fresh out of college, not a clue about what I'm doing. I think I probably had a pink shirt and white jeans on when I went for my test. Can you imagine what they are thinking? They're like, who is this bimbo that just rolled up here thinking she's going to put a badge and a gun on? Judgment all day. My first sergeant, I'll never forget, we're working out on the streets. He says to me one day, you won't last 6 months. There's nothing I love more than when someone tells me I can't. So as a matter of fact, when I hit my 25 years recently, thank you. Him and I later on became friends, but I called him up because he's retired about 10 years. I called him up. I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? How's retirement? He's like, oh, it's great, blah, blah, blah. I said, hey, remember that day? And I said, I'm going to send you something real quick. Hang on. And I had my 25-year pin. I took a picture of it. I sent it to him. He started laughing. He said, you know what? I'm man enough to admit when I was wrong. Courage. Thank you for closing the loop for me. That's right. It did take courage for him to say that. Now, was it probably the motivation I needed as a young 23-year-old college kid that didn't have a clue about real life? Probably. But you see, we all go through this journey with our own perspectives and our own biases. And it takes us being around people that are different than us to really learn human spirit connection. I always tell my young officers, don't just arrest somebody for, let's just say it's homelessness and their public urination, or I don't know, some petty crime. Sit down with them and say, how did you get here? What happened? Homelessness doesn't just happen. There's something that precedes it. And I would even argue there's something that precedes that. And probably something that precedes that. Find out their story. Everybody's got a story. See, just because we wear a badge and a gun doesn't mean our lives have been perfect. Cops are some of the biggest offenders of suicide. We lost more cops last year to suicide than we did traffic fatalities, officer-involved shootings, and COVID all put together. Because we're struggling, we're suffering. Trauma and all the things that we don't talk about because we think we shouldn't have to, or we're too tough to, is not our culture. Divorces, we got that mastered. Cancers, because we keep it all bottled up. Does this sound familiar to anyone? See, the human spirit is more alike than it is different. We are the same. Different experiences, different shells. But the human spirit longs to connect. It does, with something bigger than itself. That's why Jon has given you this beautiful connection and reminder how to connect to Jesus, how to connect to God. Because your faith gives you that power. It gives you that ability to be still. Did you know that's one of the only verses that covers all religious texts? Be still and know. Now, it's stated a little bit differently in the Torah and a little bit differently in the Quran, and than it is in the Bible, but is the same essence in all of the religious texts, even the Bhagavad Gita. Be still and know, I am God. Powerful. Imagine that. Imagine the ability to have such a faith and connection that you can actually be still. You think it's easy. Being still, meditation, is not easy. But when we learn how to do it, comes the grace. See, the three things that we all have in common. We all have a longing for community, people that we can call ours, people that we can connect with. This is community. This is your community. Police department, that's my community. One of them. Then I go to the yoga school and I throw out my little yoga mat with my Lululemon pants on. I see all my fellow girls wearing their Lululemons. I'm like, oh, okay, here's my community. Right? We're cool. We got this. And then maybe I go to Whole Foods, right? And I'm walking along paying too much money for groceries. And I'm like, hey, folks, man, we're all whole paycheck, right? We're the same today. We're community, right? So you're vibing me, though, right? Like, we all have that desire to connect. That's the first one. Identity. I am. What is your I am? What comes after your I am? I am a mother. I am a wife. I'm a police officer. I'm a yoga practitioner. I'm a runner, right? I have all of these I ams. But what happens is if we get removed from that, right? You get released from incarceration. I retire from jail. Whatever it is, I retire from jail. I retire from the police department. Do I lose that I am? What becomes our I am? So it's really important that you have that. I am a believer in God, right? You have to make sure you have something that comes after your I am. That's really important. That identity is really important. And the last one, and I would argue sometimes the most important, and please don't forget this, and then I'll take questions. The last one is purpose. Purpose. Because without purpose, what are we doing every day? What gets you out of bed? It's that purpose that gives you that fire and that fuel. Whatever your purpose is, it can be your family, it can be God, whatever your purpose is. But your purpose is bigger than your job. Your job is the means to be able to allow you to have your purpose. But what is your purpose? And it takes a little bit of work, and I know Jon has exercises and practices and things that you guys do to really drill down on that purpose. Don't forget that. Keep coming back to that. That is your anchor. That is your anchor. Community, identity, purpose. We all have that in common. It motivates us, it drives us, and absent one of those things, it gets us in trouble. It does. Okay. So I want to leave time to interact with you and to answer any questions that I can. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's do this. Can we give Sheriff Larkin a big, gigantic round of applause?
You don't need to clap.
Oh, I know I needed to. Hey, so this is the time that we're going to do some Q&A, right? Something that Sheriff Larkin dropped in this room that resonated with you, something that you want her to expound on. Remember, we're short on time because she has to get on the other side of town. We want to open it up to the ladies. Remember, it's International Women's Month. Can we give all the women a big, gigantic round of applause? We'll open it up to Jean and also the Casa Grande. We'll start right here in this room. Something that Sheriff Larkin dropped in this room that resonated with you. You'd like for her to expound on? Yes. You gotta stand up. You gotta stand up. All right.
My name is Tosh, and I just wanted to say you're absolutely right. Thank you for taking the time out to really give this some thought and really put yourself into it and move with courage. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is good. Give her a hand for that. Open it up. We're going to go out to Jean Conservation Camp.
Love it.
They better come up and speak because I sent a whole bunch of pink
No
box
pressure,
donuts out there. Step up. Tell us your name and what is that question and comment that you might have for Sheriff Larkin.
I just wanted to say that when you were talking about purpose, it made me think like some cops probably wake up and they're probably like, how am I going to get the bad guys off the street and stuff? And now that I'm in here and I heard that, it makes me think, what can I do to change this bad guy that was on the street? You know what I mean?
That is so good. You could certainly respond to her.
So thank you for your courage for that question. And I want to preface it by telling you this. You know what? 25 years ago, that was absolutely the mentality. We thought good guys, bad guys. And there was a good guy, bad guy understanding. And we operated on these parallel ends of polar opposites. But the truth is the culture has changed. And we are working very hard. And that's one of the reasons I show up here today is because I want you to know that there is not a judgment. We really feel that you have all of the opportunity, right? You're in there, you're gonna grow, you're gonna learn, you're gonna make some choices and decisions. And when you get out, having the courage to make different choices is all that we are hoping for. That's what we want to encourage, support, and really be there for you to do. We don't ever label you or think of you as a bad guy. So please don't think of yourself that way, because right now what this is a growth opportunity and really a chance to just modify whatever it is that didn't work out the first time and do it different now. So I hope that helps. And I'm really happy you took the courage to ask me that question.
That is awesome. Can we give Sheriff Larkin a gigantic round of applause? We are having a conversation, International Women's Month, with the awesome Sheriff Sasha Larkin. Open it up to any questions. You better hurry up because you'll get a few more minutes in this room. Stan, thank you so much. Tell us your name and what is that question or comment that you might have for Sheriff Larkin?
My name is Nisha Quintero, and I just want to compliment you on that you say don't put people in a box. And because we all fall short of the glory of God,
Yes,
we put each other in a box.
yes, ma'am.
And I'm glad that you have the courage to partner with Jon to stand for something, or you'll fall for anything.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that is so good. Give her a hand for that. Open it up. Any other questions or comments in this room for Sheriff Larkin?
What a good group.
I know it is. It's an amazing
Oh,
group.
they
We're
are.
going to make our way over to the other side of the room over here. And then, JR, we're coming back over here to you. And remember, the clock is ticking. All right. There we go. Tell us your name and what's that question or comment?
My name is Chaplain Sharon. Yes, I'm sorry, John. So my name is Chaplain Sharon, and I met you on your career about 7 years ago.
I
You
remember.
walked outside of Metro, not even knowing what was happening in your life. And I just want to thank you for taking your time to come in to pour into our hopefuls. And I thank God for you for inspiring me.
Thank you.
Well, good deal. Give her a hand for that. We're going to come back over here in the room, and then we're going to end it with a question or comment from Jean Camp. So you better find somebody.
No pressure.
What is that question or comment you might have?
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank
And
you.
I think for me, it gives it a lot of perspective as good guys, bad guys, whatever it is. You know, I don't have to look behind me if there's a cop behind me if I'm not doing nothing wrong.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that's a good thing. And you know what? I think Jon's done a great job here explaining life, rubbing against life. I'll
That's
never
right.
forget that he shared with me. And it brings me back to another story. A friend of mine, brother, was saying that he was at a carnival and he was with a white girl. And he went to the restroom. Some guy come over and said, man, why don't you stick with your own race?
Mm.
And so the girl went and told him after that. And you know what the guy said? Very, very smart guy. He said, tell him I am the human race.
Great. That's great.
Come on.
Best
That is
answer
good,
ever.
man. That is so good.
Best
Thank you
answer
for
ever.
that.
Thank you.
That
for
is
sharing.
awesome. I think we had somebody over at Gene Camp. Step up, tell us your name, and what is that question and comment that you might have for Sheriff Larkin?
Hi, I'm Ashley. I just want to say when you said that we get the chance to learn to be courageous every day, that really spoke to me because there's so many different ways that you can show courage, even in the smallest things.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
Thank you, Ashley. I
That
love
is
that.
awesome.
Thank you.
That is awesome. So, Sheriff Larkin, any closing remarks, any closing thoughts you'd like to share with us before you go?
One of the things that I hear almost every Hope for Prisoner graduate say when you read your vivid visions is, in some form or fashion, it's not easy, but it's worth it. And I tried to think of a couple ways today to say that any differently, but it's not easy. Growth is not easy. It's not, but it's totally worth it. And I want you to carry that every day. And remember, you're doing it better today than you did yesterday. You're learning a little bit more every single day. It's like going to the gym, right? As much as I would like to think just I lift a couple weights, jump on the treadmill, and I'll be good to go, it doesn't work that way. But I'm better now than I was yesterday, right? If I just put a little bit of effort in. Don't get discouraged. My favorite quote, something I think about all the time, Oprah Winfrey. You guys, Oprah Winfrey, anybody love Oprah still? It's my girl. Right? It's a little bit of a generational thing. This generation's not going to appreciate her as much as we did. But she always used to say, it's okay to be a victim. It's okay. It's not okay to stay a victim. Right? So if something goes wrong in your life, throw yourself the best pity party, hour and a half, but then get over it. Move on.
That's good.
Right? And keep that growth mindset. You guys are doing remarkable work. It's not easy, but it's totally worth it. God bless you. Stay on this journey, support one another. And remember, Jon Ponder, man, he's doing it. He's doing it.
Yeah.
Courageous every day.
Can we give Sheriff Larkin a big, gigantic round of applause? Thank you so much, my friend. I know you got to get back, so we appreciate you coming out.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, so that is amazing.
Happy
I
Women's
think
Month.
Chad's going to see you on the way out the door. Can we give another round of applause? I say Sasha Larkin for president. Woo! Hey, so we're going to continue this for just a few more minutes. Maybe we can, while she leaves the room, maybe we can talk about something that she said that kind of resonated with you. I'm still opening it up to you at Gene Camp at Casa Grande, too. I know there was an issue with the internet at Casa Grande, but maybe you caught the back end of it. So we'll start right over here in this room. I'm going to make my way over here. And if you could just stand up, tell us your name, and what is that question or comment you might have?
All right, so my name is Lawrence, and my comment is, well, I have all 9 gifts of the Holy Spirit, so I was discerning what she was saying.
Yes.
And if God said, who can bring a charge against God's elect, she was saying, be still and let God do what he's going to do with the situation. So I'm just glad I came.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to share. I wanted to tell her thank you, but everybody got up and told her thank you. So to God be the glory. I just want
Right. Good to man. Give him a hand for that. Give him a hand. People over at Casa Grande, Gene Camp, right here in this room. Any questions or comments? I'll cut this thing short. We'll be going. There we go. Thank you so much. Give her a hand. Woo, 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 woo. Stand up. Tell us your name. And what is that comment that you want to make?
My name is Destiny, and I like that she said it was community, identity, and purpose. And if you don't have those 3 in your life, then that's where you make the bad decisions. And I think all of us can understand in one form or another.
That is good. Give her a hand for that. Give her a hand for that. See, it's important that we have the community. I was reading in Proverbs just yesterday, I think it was. It says that that a fool isolates himself, right? A fool isolates himself. So it's important that we have that community. We're going to make our way over to Gene Conservation. Look at this cardio I'm getting in, man. Gene Conservation Camp. Step up. Tell us your name first. And what is that comment you might have?
Hi, my name is Bethany. I had a question about this whole barbecue thing we were doing.
Oh, here she is on a Tuesday night huddle up asking a question about the barbecue.
Okay, because we were under the impression it was going to be like the Christmas party, and it was an opportunity for those of us who don't get visits to see our families and our children. However, they've made it to where it's got to be approved visitors, and if I had approved visitors, I'd see them on the weekends.
Wait, stop right there for a minute. Stop right there for a minute. Stop right there for a minute, because I want to get back in front of the microphone. Your family does not need to be on your approved visitors list.
They explained to him that they just told all the girls they were.
Okay. All right. We're good. We're good. All right. Any other questions or comments that you might have? Thank God for the internet. Any other questions or comments you might have in this room? Going once? Are we going to turn Gene Camp back on? All right. Ladies. Okay. Let's go ahead. Casa Grande, make your way up to the front. Oh, we're going to hold on, Gene Camp. Hold on. We got to go to Casa Grande. You can stay. You can keep standing there. I think I'm going to do this more often. Just kick the person out. Casa Grande, come on up.
Lauren, I love that this was the topic today because I just left Gene Camp and my little speech was about human connection because I am a little socially awkward, but watching all the girls in the unit have their connections, have their little families, that really inspired me. And I know deep down we can all connect on the human level. We all have the same basic needs, and it inspired me to really reach out and make deeper connections. It's so important to recovery and everything else. So,
oh, that is so good. Give a big hand for that, right? And we're hearing that common theme. It's important that we have those human connections, right? It's important that we be in relationship with each other, because that's the way that that's the only way that we grow, right? That we're in relationship, number one, with God, and number two, in relationship with each other. Does that make sense? And I was about to preach this word right now, but I'm not going to do it. Let's go back over to Gene Camp. You guys step it up. If you ask me something about the huddle up in the park.
Listen, John, I'm not going to say nothing about the huddle up in the park. I did want to say it was refreshing to see someone in law enforcement that could see us as something more than the criminal, the good guy versus the bad guy. It took me by surprise when she popped up and you could tell she had a gun on. And I was like, wait a minute, is that a cop up there talking all these good things about Mr. Ponder? So it was really nice to see that, and to see that we can have those kinds of relationships with someone outside of this environment, because a lot of people in this environment think that, oh, it's us versus them. And no one seems to remember, like, if something happens to your kids, who are you going to call? Not Ghostbusters, you're going to call the cops, right? Yes. If something happens to your parents, what you're going to call the cops. But it was nice to see that they're there for us as well, and seeing us as something different than just a bunch of criminals. And congratulations to all the girls over there at Casa.
Oh, that is so good. That is so good. Thank you so much for sharing. You know what she just made me think about, right? She made me think about what I share all the time, right? And you guys know that I grew up and I was hating the police. I did not want to have a conversation with them. I saw them coming and I went in the other direction. They had absolutely nothing coming. Right? And I grew up. You ever think about how close that word enemy comes to the inner me? Right? The enemy on the inner me. And I spent a lifetime fighting enemies on the outside until I took a look at the enemies that were laying dormant on the inner me. And once I conquered the enemies on the inner me, the enemies on the outside disappeared. Does that make sense? So that's when I had come to the realization, Gene Camp, that for Jon Ponder, it was never the police. It was never them. It was always what was going on the inside of me. I'm the guy that just hit the lick. I'm the guy with the burners tucked, right? I'm the one that whatever, right? And the minute that I see that black and white, game on. They automatically then become the enemy. But the Bible also says that when I was a child, I thought like a child, I acted like a child, and I did childish things. But when I manned up, I put the childish things away. I cleaned out the trunk. I got rid of the burners. And the minute that I did that, the enemies on the outside disappeared. And this is why I can very comfortably say that some of the men and women of law enforcement, they're my best friends. Does that make sense? Good deal. We'll go back over inside corrections. Question or comment. We're coming to the top of the hour. Come on, step right up. Was there anybody else? Somebody else in this room? I will take away the donuts next week. You will not have donuts. Casa Grande. Going once. Going twice. All right. Well, it's gone. Well, this is what we're going to do. Was anybody in the room? Oh, wait. There we go. She saved you. She saved you. Step up. Tell us your name and what is that question or comment you might have?
John Winger, hi.
Hi. Everybody say hi to her. See, that might encourage the other women in International Women's Month to step up.
I would like to call you out, Mr. Ponder. You said you were coming to visit us, and it's the third weekend, March. Where are you?
Yes. Let me step back up in here, and I appreciate you calling me out. And I have to apologize to you. My schedule has become just atrociously busy, but I know that Kim Malloy is coming out there. Is Kim Malloy treating you guys good? Is she doing good? So Kim Malloy is better than me coming out there, but I do promise you I will be back out there. I just cannot tell you when. Does that make sense? Is that fair? Is that fair? They shaking their head, yes? All right, give her a hand for that, man, calling me out. Don't you ever do that again. No, I'm only kidding. Okay. Any other questions or comments anybody might have? Going once, going twice. All right, well, good. So listen, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this Tuesday night Huddle Up tonight. We're going to say goodnight to our friends over in Nevada Department of Corrections, the Clark County Detention Center, the City of Las Vegas Detention Center, and people joining around the world on the Hope for Prisons Facebook Live page. But before we go, I want to just inform you that we are having a graduation ceremony this upcoming Friday, March 22nd, at 4:30 p.m. at the headquarters of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I think we have about 45 graduates that are going to be graduating. Yeah, so make sure you come out and show your support. For many of you in this room, you remember your graduation and the amount of people that's in the graduation coming out sharing the support for you. All right, and for the folks out in Gene Camp, it is April 11th. It's going to be the Huddle Up in the park. We're going to be over at Lorenzi Park, and for those of you who are still in the facilities that were a part of the Christmas, the email has already gone out to your family members, so they are aware of it. And for those of you who did not participate in the 100 Christmases, we're going to have a sign-up sheet that's going to be circulated so we can get the information, so we can make sure that we extend an invitation out there. If we do not get to extend an invitation to your family, please make sure that you do so. And let me say it again, your family does not need to be on your approved visitation list. All right. So thank you guys so very much. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out in the park. And until next week, God bless you and good night.